Rise of Africa, the continent, the diaspora, and BRICS explores the relationships that are affecting the global economy right now. This book explores the relationships of the African diaspora's influence on the African continent and why this is important in stabilizing relationships with an understanding of how BRICS impacts the future, good or bad. You can order your copy of The Rise of Africa today on Amazon.com.
NeoDiplomacy is the new currency. NeoDiplomacy is the new currency. The reason that I can say that is you have a couple of different factors occurring right now as we speak on the world stage. The dollar is being disrupted. Nations are no longer wanting to engage with the United States. But the third factor that affects each and every one of us is that there is a diaspora from the African continent that's willing and able to engage our brothers and sisters on the continent.
Shalom, Salama, Siemi, Shalom. Greetings to all my Israelite brothers and sisters from around the world, whether they're the bloodline of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the house of Israel, or you're a Gentile, grafted into the house under the blood of Yahushua HaMashiach. I welcome you this morning here on a kind of cold December 4th. I know most of the nation's going to be in kind of a little bit of a deep freeze, so sit back, relax, and let me go ahead and warm you up. No, not with boat strikes. No, not with Reaper attacks from Sidewinders. But warm you up and being of good cheer, because the Most High is always faithful to those that love him. Again, one scripture that I had just on my mind constantly this week. Excuse me. Dealing with a little bit of a head issue. The cold weather gets around me and it just, ugh. So please bear with me. I appreciate it. Thank you for your attention to this matter. I like the fact that, I'm sorry, we have been saying everything that has been happening. And I'm telling you, what the Most High is like providing, he's showing us the Cliff Note in advance. Because for those that understand what's happening, You see what's happening. Oh, come on. There we go. Just trying to get it on over to here. There we go. Jeremiah 50, verse 20. Jeremiah 50, I think, is like the staple. Shout out to Minister Yakoba. And Minister Teyu, there ain't no 400-year prophecy. And I don't know about that because a lot of things are coming to pass. And this is Jeremiah 50 and 20. 50 and 20. In those days and in that time, saith Yahuwah, the iniquity of Israel shall be sought for, and there shall be none, and the sins of Judah, and they shall not be found, for I will pardon them whom I reserve. Now, again, this is two parts, and I would say, remember a couple of years ago, everybody was trying to say, oh, well, Ibrahim Traore is this and Ibrahim Traore is that. And now you can't hear anything. You don't hear anything because when they see the projects and everything else that's going on in Burkina Faso, amazing. They don't want to say anything there. Well, wait a second. Hold on. You just mean that all they're doing is controlling their resources? Absolutely. This is a resource war. And I was talking about it in The Rise of Africa, the Continent, the Diaspora, and BRICS. I spoke about this in my book. Shout out to Brother Asaph. He's been giving me some great commentary. As I'm finishing up and wrapping up my academic work, that academic work was, actually was, it still is on everything that's happening right now. The funny thing is, when I had first applied to do my doctorate, I applied regarding I said BRICS and the African continent. I said BRICS is going to have an impact on the African continent. And, at that time, I was more along the understanding of what you would see in Somalia, what you would see in Sudan, Egypt, North Africa. That was really the precipice because I was actually more so along the interest of the Red Sea corridor and over towards Ethiopia. That was really the interest. And that was my application in spring of 2020. And then I started in on my dissertation, July of 2020. I remember that as I'm stuck in North Carolina in the barracks for 15 days going through quarantine, getting out of the military, praying and saying, Father, is this what I need to do in the midst of the COVID pandemic? I think I'm allowed to say that. But at that time, it was all about building trust. One thing, and trust in the Most High, it's one thing saying that you trust Him, and it's one thing believing and doing and walking. And I'm going to say this, that time of trusting Him was the most crucial thing I think I've ever did in my life. Because being alone, being dejected, you start to understand how the Most High loves you more than you actually love yourself. And when you understand He loves you more than you love yourself, He loves you because there is a covenant. Excuse me. There is a covenant attached to His love. A covenant that many here in the United States, matter of fact, they encourage people to break their covenant. See, when the Most High married our people, when He married His bride for real. Even though we were wayward, even though we were all over the place, we're literally the product of multiple personality disorder. Of the spiritual kind. And yet, shalom to the Tenzies, getting on out to the islands, beating the cold weather from the Bahamas. Oh boy, hallelujah. We have a Father that truly loves His people. But again, what's happening, we think it's going to be a quick turnaround. Nah, we have to come to the realization that we're not just a wayward spouse. We've been a wayward people. I still think about Sister Shonda's video that she had shown of our people choosing Pharaoh, because understand we have to choose our Elohim. We have to choose our bridegroom again. We have to choose our covenant. We have to choose our vow. We have to choose our path. You know, the whole world has been just basically creating all these distractions so we don't choose Him. That's the whole point of this life in this captivity. And now we begin to figure that out. And now we begin to open our mouths and declare and decree the promises that our Father has made for us. Not the, oh well, he did. Are you sure? Did he? Did he? Are you sure? Or can you really turn? Are you all that clean? We turned you into all sorts of things. We turned you into sexual. degenerates. We've turned you into murderers. We've turned you into thieves. We've turned you into liars. We turned you into all sorts of corruption that we could think of to make you look plain messy. And that literally was their job for over a couple of millennia. And you want to know what the crazy thing is? They would rather make sure that they perform their job than look at anything else and see anything else and realize anything else. That is their curse. Because those that bless Israel shall be blessed, and those that curse Israel shall be cursed. Exactly, Minister Rick. That is the Balaam plan. The problem is they've been cursing, and now at that time, why are they trying to seek out our iniquity? Because they're in trouble. Trouble, trouble, trouble. Sorry, family, I had to do that. Y'all know? Trouble, trouble, trouble. Trouble like big worm. Oh, those late 90s movies, I'm telling you. Dollar Bill is in trouble. And as I had stated, look, everybody's going under the bus. Everybody's under the bus. And they don't care. They're taking out their own. They wanted to throw Admiral Halsey under the bus so bad it wasn't even funny. And in that time, and the sins of Judah, and they shall not be found. Woo! That's not us. That's not our portion. It's not our portion, folks. Folks, listen up. It's not our portion. After decades in combat, a SEAL suddenly comes under scrutiny. Admiral Frank M. Bradley will soon face questions from lawmakers as Republicans and Democrats express concern about a September 2nd attack on a boat in the Caribbean. That's his picture right there. Has taken part in operations that span from Afghanistan to Yemen. During his career, Admiral Frank Mitchell Bradley, a stoic and cerebral SEAL known as Mitch to his peers, has ordered and carried out strikes against targets in Afghanistan, Yemen, and other war zones. Over the decades, he drew little attention outside the smoke and mirrors world of special operations, but now he is facing the biggest challenge, biggest professional challenge in public. After years of following orders with clear rules of engagement and with congressional authority targeting jihadists in rural and urban settings, Admiral Bradley was put in command of a legally murky attack on September 2nd, targeting a boat in the Caribbean that the Trump administration says was smuggling drugs, and in ordering a second strike that killed two survivors who were clinging to the burning wreckage of the boat, something his superiors say they did not specifically order him to do. Admiral Bradley now finds himself in potential legal jeopardy. Here's the reality. Um, the reason I bring up Nuremberg and what you see in the thumbnail was a picture of Nuremberg. And I want everybody to understand that this is very similar to when that regime, that World War II regime, was in power. What they were trying to do, and they were trying to say in their defense, I want to make this clear, and I don't like to just say, well, it's I bring up your Nuremberg just because the Avery Journal Times, our Avery County local guards at Nuremberg trials. Since starting this column chronicling Avery County history in 2011, I've sought not only to only tell local history, but to tie that history into national or at times global events: the American Revolution, the Civil War, the suffrage movement, the desegregation of public schools following Brown versus Board of Education. All of that is local history. World War II is one of the global events that had profound impact or effect on local history. Hundreds of men and women served. The mica that was mined locally played a crucial part in winning the war. So he's going to go down and saying this. But I'm going to come down here. Even before the war ended, the leading Allied nations proposed to try Nazi war criminals in an international court. Adolf Hitler took his own life at the end of April, and Germany surrendered on May 7th, 1945. Just before Germany surrendered, President Harry S. Truman appointed Associate Supreme Court Justice Robert H. Jackson to be the United States Chief Prosecutor. Jackson helped establish the procedures for the upcoming trials in agreement as the London Charter. 24 Nazi government officials were indicted on October 18th. 3 leaders, Adolf Hitler, Joseph Goebbels, and Heinrich Himmler, committed suicide before they could be arrested. 2 others, Hermann Göring, Robert Lee, committed suicide before their trials began. Some of the names of those on trial are well-known history to men like Martin Bormann, Rudolf Hess, and Albert Speer. The trials were held at Nuremberg, and the prisoners were held at Nuremberg prison adjacent to the Palace of Justice. 12, I'm going to skip down here. 12 leading Nazi officials were sentenced to death. 3 were given life imprisonments. 4 were given sentences from 100 to 20 years, and 3 were acquitted. The United States held 12 additional Nuremberg trials from 1946 to 1949. What did that mean? They went after the whole administration. Exactly, Marable Dorsey. Astonishingly, the same people that went through the Nuremberg are now committing the same acts upon another nation. Crazy. It is. Because if you don't know your history, you're going to be doomed to repeat it. What is happening here, as I have stated, and I'm stating this because, to be quite honest, I haven't heard this from anybody. I haven't heard it from Canadian Prepper. I haven't heard it from our boy Paul over at Off Grid. All they talk about is local stuff. Oh, well, it's going to be this, it's going to be that, it's going to look like this, it's going to work like that, it's going to no. The reality is that now you have a nation, and who's to say that we're not going through a direct economic hardship due to an actual monetary embargo? Could it be that the United States is already facing an economic embargo? Maybe that economic embargo did start. Maybe that economic embargo was part of the consequence of supporting that Eastern Mediterranean nation. Maybe our our economy is collapsing right now because maybe we're also being economically embargoed. The funny thing is, I told you, if the United States had some sort of a negative um geopolitical consequence or global geopolitical consequence, guess what? You would never know here. The internet would be scrubbed. The rest of the world would know, and they would know kind of, sort of, but we would not know at all. Could this be what's happening right now? Could it? Yeah, and the reality is they don't even want to tell you the actual ADP jobs numbers. They don't even want to. Well, you have to get now the ADP jobs numbers because the reality is the government is no longer even posting government payroll data anymore. We do not even have official numbers of how bad the economy is. As I had stated, I said this. I said this over 2 years ago. I said this. When things get bad, they're not going to tell you anything. Oh, well, now we don't really have the data anymore because of the government shutdown and everything and all this and all that. And now here you go. We're just seeing the collapse in slow motion. It's just that a lot of people didn't understand. And they just want you to internalize, well, when Trump is out of office, well, when the midterms get here, blah, 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 blah. The blah is because it is something that you're just going to have to pray about it and ask the Most High to give you understanding. All I'm going to do is just talk about this. until they try to come after me. What sins are in Judah? Why do you think that AI is really so big right now? Why do you think that AI is doing what it can do to scrub away and to control algorithms? They push everything that's not necessary, to be quite honest. All of our channels in this sector of the YouTube verse, we're all under some sort of an algorithmic freeze. Why? Because if you have people listening, then people are gonna start to understand. Because to be quite honest, it's not a physical thing. Hearers and doers of the word. Well, like I've always stated, pray about everything. You want to know why they're always quick to provide distractions? Because the more that you can be distracted, guess what? The less likely you're going to pray. Because you're always going to be, well, what happened here? Well, what happened there? What happened here? Just like what Sister Shonda said. Look, I wholeheartedly agree. Take a day or two, unplug. Don't even look at anything. Just read. Just pray. Get your spiritual battery recharged and re energized. Because you're going to start to see a whole bunch of crazy in a time where the collapse is happening. That's it. Because don't think that this admiral is going to go down lightly. I'm just going to be a SEAL and soldier on and sailor on and, you know, go from there. Yeah, right. He is preparing his legal case. He is drawing up all sorts of documents. They are making sure they have their ledgers and everything else. I'm telling you, that's how they operate. Glad I've worked indirectly for a couple 4 stars. A lot of people, I don't. When I first went into the army as an officer, I told you I was a great military officer. I would say this: I was good, and I wouldn't say I was good. I enjoyed my job, and people knew that I what my capabilities. Because you want to know why? Because they knew what I didn't know. If I had only known then what I knew now, let me just tell you this: in the place that I had worked, that place was so highly sought after by just civilian folks here in Tampa that one person that had been embroiled in a scandal was actually in the same office that I worked in. This was actually internationally. And that person ended up making $80 million from the Korean government. When I had first decided to become an officer, I first prayed. I said, Father, I said, is this the door you're going to let me open? And he did. I actually came under a direct appointment, direct commission. I didn't have to go to OCS. I didn't have to do any of that mess. It was like one of their like prestigious type of, packets and things of that nature. They basically give you the commission, no questions asked. Here you go. I had 2 4-star letters of recommendations and 1 2-star who became a 4-star. So basically 3 letters of recommendations from 4-star generals. It was actually kind of unheard of. I had my packet together. Usually it takes about 5 to 6 months. I had it together in 2 weeks. It was unheard of. Usually it takes about a year to get through the board. I had gone through the board in 2 months. Again, it was unheard of. And then when I was supposed to find another unit, I got commissioned and they brought me right back on active duty in basically the same spot I had been at CENTCOM. It was unheard of. And the reason I left that position was because I actually wanted to get more operational time. I was strategic. I was always strategic. I wanted to get more operational time. And then my military career had brought me to SOCCENT, Special Operations Command Central. I had traveled to the Middle East many times. People then envied my position. I'm like, well, I said, I don't even know how I got this position. I just said, I'm willing to travel. And then the next thing I know, I spend about 6 months over in the Middle East. And during that time, I had many offers to come back over as a contractor, as a consultant, as a this, as a that. I'm telling you, if I had followed my flesh, it would be a different story. But I never did. Excuse me. One thing my dad would always tell me is listen, if you follow your flesh, the enemy will take care of you. And when the enemy takes care of you, the enemy will destroy you. But when you follow God, he's Eurocentric, then God will take care of you. And you'll be blessed beyond anything that you could have even thought or imagined. And I knew then that in 2020 that it was decision time. Do I stay or do I go? And the funny thing is, I started to understand what was happening. It wasn't anything about like we already kind of knew Biden was coming in because it's not about the presidents. It's not. It's about the system that was already starting to be exposed and it was already starting to unravel. And I was already looking at that from ground zero. And it got to a point in time that it was like, you know, when you can't even get up and you don't want to leave the bed because it's like, oh, I just can't wait to get up on out of here. And I had to make that conscious decision. While literally they were saying, look, you can become major, you'll be a lieutenant colonel. They had my plan picked out. I was gonna be a 1 star. I already knew that. I was gonna be a 1 star. I was gonna do all the KD, all the positions. They were already like again, they mapped up they're already having plans mapped out. But again, I said, Father, it's not about my plan. I said, Father, what's your plan? And when COVID happened, I kid you not, I realized I said, no, it's time to go. Like it was just in my spirit. It was like, it's time to go. Don't chance it. Don't think that you can get away. No. Now I pray for our brothers and sisters that's still in uniform because again, they're all in the position to be thrown under the bus. And when I had stated earlier this week, I said Trump lost the military. His administration lost the military. That wasn't said lightly because you now have the 4 star over at SOCOM, and SOCOM is in everything. They are a functional command, not a global combatant command, not a GCC. They are a functional command, just like StratCom. They can go all around the world. They can, deploy where they need to deploy for the missions that they need to go to. This hits every sector of the military because now everybody is going to be apprehensive that if they're following an order, is it legal? And will I be in trouble? Will I be in legal peril for following that order? Will I end up like that Nuremberg trial? Will I be on those Nuremberg trials? No position safe. It doesn't matter if you're in the administration as a civilian or if you're just a little private that's only been in less than 6 months. I don't know what I was doing. I was just told to feed the prisoners. I didn't do any of that mess. Look, I'm just giving you the reality of this because the reality is it's not about a congressional inquiry. This raises well beyond that level. That's why I have on in there the ICC Secretary Khan, or excuse me, Prosecutor Khan, their chief legal prosecutor. Somebody had asked yesterday, because I had a discussion about this. They said, are they allowed to go after, a sitting head of state? I said, absolutely. Shoot, they took out Noriega. They took out Gaddafi. I said, all they need is just the legal justification. And the country that has the means and abilities to prosecute that military action. The reality is that I you can kind of tell now it's what are they doing because they're trying to like serve this thing up on a silver plate. They're trying to serve up the conditions on a silver plate. Why not? Oh, okay. Well, we'll go on in there and we'll, make sure that everything has law and order. Hey, we got to bring justice and civility back to the United States. And then in the process, we get a chance to balkanize. And in the process, we get a chance to see what the supercomputer, this AI can do in digitally detaining a nation. See, when I would always say and see, oh man, look how bad things are in China and blah blah blah. I would always look at it and be like, yeah, it's bad in China, but just think of what they plan on doing here in the United States. That will never happen. See, the reality is this. What they always try to plan for someone else, they always are the ones that fall into the trap. That's what happens with the wicked. I didn't say that. That's what the word says. The wicked get trapped in their own snares. Get trapped in their own folly. They dig the ditch and they end up falling into their own pit. How many times how many times we read that in Proverbs, Psalms, Lamentations, you name it. And we see this happening in front of our own eyes. Yeah, we're praying for our folks over in the North, especially the Midwest, because understand they're trying to make sure that these AI supercomputers, quantum computers are up and running. And for those, the remember energy needs. Remember that back in like I think Houston back in the day when they had that really bad freeze for like 2 weeks, and they diverted all the power to the quote unquote more affluent neighborhoods. Well, what do you think is going to happen for their servers and things of that nature? See, what we're seeing here is a interesting grand finale that will take a couple years to build up, or maybe a couple months. Honestly, I'm not sure. But I'm telling you, you're now starting to see the building blocks, because people think that those nations, oh, who cares about Venezuela? Who cares about Colombia? Who cares about this? These other nations are going to start to come together. And I guarantee you, they're going to start to put their petitions together, and they're going to start to go to the ICC and the ICJ. They're going to go to The Hague, and they're going to say, all right, if you don't want to respect international rule and international law, they're going to take away all of your resources. I believe that this is the power play that BRICS is going to use. Like I had said, these smaller countries are going to control their resources, and then they're going to make Europe do the ultimate decision. If you want these resources, you're going to have to throw America under the bus. That won't happen. That will never happen. That will. Okay. We will, Cindy Lou. Cindy Lou says her brother in law lives in Venezuela. I love it when people always say that that won't happen. And then when it happens, it's like, oh. Remember, the U.S. is already squeezing Europe out of Ukraine. The U.S. is already trying to squeeze Europe out of those trillions of dollars worth of resources. They're just getting the justification all day, every day. It's just that our people can't realize, or that not just people don't want to think that it can't happen. And then as we're explaining, oh, it's happening and it's happening right in front of your face, then they always try to say it's never gonna happen. And then when it happens, and then when you call it, I'm not going to gloat. I'm just going to say, look, we saw it. And the reason that we saw it is because we know who we are. And we know who we are because the Most High woke us up so then we can be prepared, so then we can understand and speak truth to our neighbors. Truth and peace. To come out of what? To come out of Babylon and be not what? Partakers in her judgment. These folks have lived deliciously and now they've become drunk. Now they're walking around. This is what a drunk person does. I didn't do that. I didn't say that. I didn't. But they were so boastful. Man, they got all that stuff on tape. You want to know how they got all that on tape? Because every time you have a VTC, every time you have a secret video teleconference, every time you have an active strike, guess what that is? That's record. Like I had said, they will have all sorts of FOIA requests, Freedom of Information Act requests. They'll have all sorts of e-discoveries. And they're going to get all that information. Oh, and guess what? That FOIA and e-discovery, I'm pretty sure, is probably taking place right now as we speak from the ICC and the ICJ. If I were a betting man, I'd put money on it. So we'll see. If you like this channel, you can support via Cash App, COVAWK1. That's COVAWK1. Or you can donate via Zelle or PayPal at karasi@emerson.com. I appreciate you all's support, your prayers. Family, it is a blessing as I make these phone calls, as I engage with our brothers and sisters on the continent. I want you all to know we're truly a blessed people. We may have to go through a little bit of this trial, but we truly are blessed people. Because you want to know why? Because the Most High is awesome. Mm. And we're going to be praying for our brothers and sisters over up north in this weather, that the Most High keeps them and sustains them. Because yeah, this is really an early winter. And I was going to say something about that because if you're in the teens this early in January, it's going to be bad, and then you'll have a really bad February, and you may not warm up to at least late March, early April, and that would be very, very detrimental because once you have a bad winter, then you're going to have a really bad summer with storms. So, and yes, and I told somebody here, I was talking about the winters. I said, if it's looking like that up north, Tampa's probably going to have flurries again. And we had flurries the last time. I think it was like 2008. It was around January. Yep, it was January, mid-January. It's always the third week in January that in Tampa it gets really cold. From the third week of January to about Valentine's Day. That's our winter, and our winter. I mean, it's our winter. We get into freezing levels and freezing conditions. So yes, family, please be safe. Please watch over each other, talk to each other. Because right now, these times that we're living in, it's very, very interesting. So again, and also don't try to provoke them. If they provoke you, don't buy into it. Please don't, family. Please go on out there and use wisdom. And honestly, here's the best thing about everything. Pray for your enemies. Pray that the Most High shows them, that they're able to see their reflection. I can't do anything. We're past the time of, oh, do you know this? Do you know? Look, they know who we are. They know what's happening. Now it's the time that they have to repent. That's it. We said our piece. It's their time. All I can say is, hey, may the Most High show you what's what. That's all I can say. This is not our fight anymore. This is something that you have to figure out on your own. You need to pray about on your own. Why do I need to pray about it? Why do I do? That's all my piece. I'm speaking my piece. I pray the Most High shows you you. We we it is not our fight anymore. We did everything that we could do. Now this is up to you. All right. All right. Well, family, with that, I got to get up on out of here. And again, thank you for your prayers, your support. It truly is a blessing. Hallelujah. We're about to see the Most High doing some incredible and amazing things on behalf of his people. So, with that said, family, shalom, salama, sieme, shalom. Peace and blessings. Yasharel.